Hello there. I'm finally getting reflections on uh, lesson two done. Um, Sorry I'm a little slow. I was trying to get through the various assignments and discussion boards so that I could give real feedback. So let's see what we got. Um, in terms of the discussions, I have been very happy with the discussions. They are fun to read. Y'all are engaging with one another. Most of you are posting earlier and oftener, uh, and I think that's great. So let's keep that up as we go along. Um, one particular area, I thought corporate social responsibility, business of businesses to make money, etc. discussion was really good. Y'all brought up a variety of perspectives. Um, Kind of talked each other into certain things, or it appeared kind of opened eyes to alternative ways. Um, and I'm not sure that there is an answer because I don't think there is. I think there is room for different perspectives. But all that said, I really think you all touched on most of the right things. The real challenge, as a couple of you highlighted, is that you can't really leave it to government to regulate stuff. There are all kinds of problems with that, even if they were acting in society's best interest and not just in their own, which is a big stretch sometimes with lobbyists and various interest groups. But even if they were trying, it's hard to regulate everything. So we need to kind of rely on uh, firms to police themselves to some degree, or at least one would hope. Um, I did, though, want to make a note, all right, that when it comes to good corporate actions, whether you want to call it corporate social responsibility or conscious capitalism or whatever, um, I think there is a difference. If you are thinking of it as donations to good causes, as sponsoring, cancer research or whatever else, that's great. Those are good things, and companies, if they want to do that and their shareholders are willing, that's all good. But to me, there is this piece kind of reflected here in what we as society expect of business in areas such as the green environment, uh, employee issues, the wage rates, uh, work-life balance, safety, livability, living wages, all of those things. More broadly, I guess I'd call that truly sustainability, not just the green. And some of you pointed out that some of the more traditional donations, sponsorships, etc., might have to wait until a company had a bunch of excess money. Okay, it's probably true. But if you're talking about some of these other behaviors, I think that's more in line with kind of that conscious capitalism, or the view uh, that doing the right thing, if you will, is actually good for business. When you think about things like uh, diversity, legitimate suppliers who aren't exploiting labor, etc., those are things you can build into the company from day one. And more evidence that they don't actually cost you more might, and certainly in the long run, pay off. So I hope you will at least think about those. But again, great discussion, lots of different perspectives, and lots of good thinking. So that's great. Um, on the assignment and the other posts, again, the postings were fun as people kind of looked at different aspects of performance on their own, different views that people had on companies they had done, and looking at other companies in the same or different industries. That was all good. The assignments themselves um, were mostly good. Generally looked like they had thought and effort into them. Do want to highlight a couple of things, though, that were kind of common things that people need to continue to wrestle with. One is on strategy. The where and how continue to be kind of vexing. And some of you may have had it better than I was reading, but again, I'm reading what you're writing, not what you're thinking. Um, Others of you, I think, may still be trying to make the steps, as Porter would call it, the strategy rather than the strategy to strategy. So if you remember our definition of how and where. So how is really the competitive advantage they're trying to achieve? Uh, or to me, the simplest way to think about it is why should someone buy our product or service rather than from another company? So because we're the lowest price, because we have the best quality, because we have the best service, because we're the most innovative, some combination of those things. But that's kind of the bottom line. Then there's a variety of steps the firm may be taking to achieve that. And that might include investment in this or that, or expansion, or contraction, or diversification, or whatever it might be. But the strategy, how part really comes back to the real competitive advantage and what that translates to for the person or company who is contemplating buying from you. And then the where, what I call really the product uh, uh, and market focus. What are we selling, and who are we selling it to? Right, to the broad market or a niche, regionally, nationally, whatever it might be. So try to, focus your identification of strategy down into those areas and be clear when you are highlighting those. Then if you want to wander into the steps they're taking to achieve that, that's great, but make sure you're clear on the way we are using it here. On the performance part, generally good. A lot of you are, kind of finance and or accounting savvy, and that's great. Others of you are trying. That's great. Do make sure that you get to the ratios, not just the numbers, right? Not just the ratios here, but these were some of the ones introduced in the lesson. And remember that we're doing the ratios because ratios we can compare. Raw numbers are much harder to compare. So make sure you get down to the ratios and then think about what those ratios can tell us, how we can dig down, disaggregate the ratios to understand the firm and how it's changing over time, and then use those ratios for comparison with other companies in the industry, whether that's industry averages from a source like BizMiner, or whether that's picking a few direct competitors. One or two of you doing airlines, for example, might have compared American, United, and Delta directly, and Southwest. Either way, but if you get down to the ratios, then get some numbers from the industry, that really lets us kind of put the firm's performance in context. Um, so I think that's it on the lesson. A couple of other things real quick. Um, the quiz scores. I am watching the quiz scores. They are not quite where I would like them to be, although we do have a few people each week getting perfect scores, getting 90-something%. Um, but they are a little on the tough side. On the one hand, that's good. I mean for them to be challenging. I want you to have read and prepared and all of that. But if you have really done all the work, then I'd like you to be able to do well on them. Maybe not get 100%, but do a little bit better than we've been doing on average. So I will continue to watch those, and if need be, I will make adjustments. But do realize that the quiz scores are one piece. They may be a little harder. The discussion tends to be graded much more easily. I think that it all works out at the end, but I understand the frustration if you really have prepared and you're not doing well. So we'll keep an eye on that. The other, as somebody mentioned in an assignment or an email, but I hope we should all keep in mind, is that, or I hope that the pieces are going to start coming together, right? We have to start in someplace, and we talk strategy and we talk performance, and now we're talking environment. And next lesson, we're going to talk about resources and capabilities. And you really need kind of all of those to have it all really kind of make sense. But I have to present them kind of one piece at a time if we're going to dig down into them. So hang in there, stay with it, and I hope after the next lesson that kind of the pieces start to fall into place for everybody. As always, holler if you got questions.